Happy Shamanic Sundays to you and to everybody out there in our community. Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on what time zone you're in. Thank you for being here with us today. And we're just so, it's just very cool to be able to share my dad's work and wisdom with all of you. And we appreciate all the notes we've been getting and the questions. And so it's just great to know that this is feeling of service to folks, and we'll keep showing up as long as you keep asking for it. So thank you. And we like to start off with a prayer of gratitude in addition to that general expression for our community. So Poppy, you want to start us off?
Okay. Well, thank you, great creative wisdom power of the universe that knows how to create a universe, and us as human beings, two-leggeds in beautiful Mother Earth, with the gift of incarnation as a human being. So thank you for that gift and opportunity and responsibility, and thank you for our ancestors and ancestors of indigenous people where we live. Thank you for our families and our communities, and thank you for joining today through technology and bringing our hearts and minds together to listen deeper, to see what comes through from your guidance that might be able to help us with our challenges on this day of opportunity of being alive. And with prayers for healing of the sacred hoop, may it be so. Oh,
thank you. Thank you.
Good.
I have, we got a question about, let me make sure I read it correctly. I'm wondering if there's any tools from shamanism that could help one deal with self-judgment. And I thought that was a really interesting question because what it brought up for me was the question of, do indigenous cultures, which, is where the roots of shamanism come from, of course, in your experience working with indigenous leaders and medicine people around the world, do indigenous cultures have that same concept of like judgment and shame in the same way that Western traditions, civilizations do?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I know there's shame and judgment in terms of like you've done something, against your people, and you could get ostracized from, the tribe, right? But so I assume with that would be the same kind of self-judgment. But I'm just curious, like culturally, if you've noticed differences with how we in Western civilization judge ourselves compared to indigenous cultures.
Yeah, I'm reminded of actually the Dalai Lama, who's from an indigenous culture in Tibet, remarked once about how amazed he was with the issues that people from Eurocentric conditioning had in terms of self-esteem. And his culture, and in response to your question, indigenous cultures don't have the same focus on the importance of the ego identity, and that's what it's all about, satisfying the needs of the individual ego. But just the opposite. It's you remember, you wouldn't be here without your ancestors. You wouldn't be here without your family and your tribe, and so your responsibility for the life you were given is to give back. I just read an interesting quote from Oren Lyons recently in the spirit world. Blessings on his life.
He was a
Iroquois,
chief of the
Iroquois. Yeah, and a fantastic lacrosse player, by the way. But he said we don't need a declaration of rights. He said what we need is a declaration of responsibilities.
Yeah, no kidding.
And that statement speaks to the different focus between indigenous mind and Eurocentric mind, which is based on the identity of the individual ego, separate from everything else, as the primary focus of life, whereas the indigenous is just the opposite in the recognition there is no such thing as a separate thing. We're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And so the responsibility you have in being alive for the gifts of creation that are given to you nonstop every day are to give back. Give back to your tribe, make sure everybody's okay in the tribe, and to give back to the sources of life, the gods and goddesses, Mother Earth, there's the spirit of the tree, the river, the animal that you eat, the plant that you eat, so that there's balance. And those in their understanding as gods and goddesses will continue to give you what you need if you're giving back to them in equal measure. So that's the focus. And so it's not an issue on the individual and indigenous culture about ego and concerns about how am I showing up? How do other people see me? How do I judge myself in terms of my performance about whatever my expectations are? It's just the opposite. It's what are you doing to give back to your people?
Yeah, that's super interesting.
So the other part, excuse me, I'm remembering the other part of the question, or trying to remember it. Are there shamanic tools that can help us? Is there anything in shamanism that can help us deal with our critical self-judgment? Is that the question?
Well, that was the question that came into us. But before we get into that, and it's totally tied into it, as I was listening to you speak just now about the rights versus responsibilities and the self, just reminded me of the whole mask thing, right? Like my rights compared to the responsibility of my fellow human beings, gun violence, like my right to bear arms compared to the violence that is happening because of the prevalence. And I mean, so many issues around that. It's not any one thing, of course, but it just makes me think of how, like, even though I was raised in California, by a European mom and American dad, and but our relationship with so many indigenous elders through your work that I got to know too, and the way that I think Nicole and I were raised was really much more about like that, real like showing up with like just an open heart and like, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? How can I be of service? And well, I'll just speak for myself. Like, I know I tend to be so open with people. And then sometimes I'm like too vulnerable, in this society, right? It gets judged as being, I don't know, too soft or too, who knows what. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling, but it's just interesting thinking about that difference in mental, the paradigm that different cultures hold, and how the traditions and belief systems that you're raised in then impact your experience. I guess I'm stating the obvious, kind of rambling.
It's okay. I enjoy your rambling to see where you go and where you end up.
I don't know where I ended up just now, but here we are. Thanks for sticking with us, folks. Maybe we should just get to the question of that the person sent in about like shamanic tools to deal with self-judgment. And that's perfect. I can judge myself now for my rambling, and I can figure out how to use those tools to not judge myself.
Right. Yeah. Well, those judgments, I think, come from a patriarchal consciousness with value system of might makes right, and of course very sexist, and especially judgmental against all of us, because we're raised in a fault-finding culture to find fault, what's wrong with us.
Yeah.
So we're trained in that, and so it's like we're always looking through this unconsciously conditioned lens of what did I do wrong, what did I do right, what did I do not good enough, where did I fail, how did I mess up? And it's like we've got that pressure on us that's all in relationship to a doing culture versus a being culture, in terms of there's things you should be doing in our culture. The value system, things you be doing are that which extracts from the earth and other people to benefit yourself as an individual. Again, going back to the earlier theme of how can I serve instead of what can I get. So that's where that judgmentalness comes from. And in terms of shamanic tools or methodologies to help with that, um, dynamic of catching and shape-shifting those thought forms that create the suffering through judgment, negative judgments about ourselves, then when you notice, I mean, everything starts with awareness and everything starts with intention and everything starts with being present in the moment and paying attention to what you're experiencing. And if you're suffering, if I'm suffering in the moment from not feeling good about myself, that's an opportunity to wake up, to use that as a wake up. Okay, so what's the story I'm telling myself? What's the narrative that I'm telling myself that's creating the experience that I'm having in my body right now, the feelings, the sensations that I call suffering. So to bring awareness to the suffering, noticing that I'm suffering, that I'm experiencing, my awareness is experiencing suffering, the vehicle of opportunity to wake up. And when I say wake up, remember, I'm more than my ego stories. I'm more than those stories, and I'm more than the physical body and the identity associated with those stories. So whatever kind of shamanic methodologies that help you wake up and remember, I'm more than I think I am. And one of the ways, really simple ways to do that is just take a moment and think about, I love it when people in the past have come to me and say, well, I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in God and spirit or anything. I just believe in myself. And as an independent unit, independent entity. I said, well, when the next breath leaves your body, don't take another breath for a while. And so we all know what happens. Eventually you're going to turn blue, and the worst that happens, you're going to pass out if you hold it long enough. But then the body, the life force in the body, the wisdom of the body will start breathing while until you come back into consciousness. So it's such a wonderful reminder. One of the ways you can experience that you're more than who you think you are is that you're totally dependent on forces for your life that are bigger than you. Like the breath of oxygen coming in. You didn't create it. It took a whole planetary phenomena in a particular Goldilocks zone of existence in the solar system to be able to have life on Earth. And here we are, self-reflective human beings over a period of evolution. Mm-hmm. And so there's you're connected to something more than just your ego, more than just your rational mind, more than your story. Mm-hmm. So to bring awareness to how I'm dependent on the sun coming down to earth with the food and plants to feed me, and gravity to keep me on the planet, and you just go on and on and on. What I'm dependent on for my life opens my awareness to I'm connected to that more. And that I'm connected to it from indigenous understanding comes the need to give back to it of gratitude for giving you your life. So just thinking about what you're grateful for, thinking about the source of whatever it is you're thankful for, what's the ultimate source of where it came from, is going to start expanding your sense of who you are and help you wake up and remember. So whatever shamanic methodologies and ceremonies and rituals, a lot of them are gratitude. They're just giving thanks back to the spirit world from which everything comes from, and giving back from your heart. So it's not just empty words. You have to go down into your heart, bring your awareness into your heart, so it's real. And that opens you up to deeper connection and attunement with those creative powers by giving thanks for them. You don't have to ask for them. They're always being given.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I think that totally makes sense. I hope it is helpful for the person who submitted the question. I love how it just goes back to going back to intention and gratitude, and that it is not just about you, right? That takes it out of the ego stuff. So whatever I was judging myself on, then, there's just like a teeny little sliver, right?
Yeah, and accepting that, that part of the ego's job is what it does is judging ourselves based on the values that have been unconsciously conditioned into our mind. So just with the witness function, being able to notice it, oh, there's my ego running a story that creates suffering for myself.
Yeah.
And differentiating consciousness from the contents of consciousness. The contents are the thoughts and the experience, but it's consciousness, it's awareness that's has the awareness of what's going on, and that's who I really am, not the contents of a particular thought or story. And when the ego puts energy into that story, what it triggers, that's part of the drama of a human incarnation, but it's not who I am. It's not who we are.
Right. Yeah. How you talk a lot about the ego. Of course, you're a PhD psychologist, not just a shaman, but you were educated in psychology, and so the ego, of course, goes back to like Freud, right, and the different parts of your personality. Do indigenous cultures hold that kind of concept around mental paradigms, like that there's the id, the ego, and the superego, even if not those terms, but that kind of gestalt?
Yeah, I think for that indigenous mind, indigenous people, indigenous understanding is again, there's your excuse me, your physical being, your existence, but it's embedded in a larger context of connection with the cosmos, infinite connection with infinite being, and more the question or issues instead of dynamics of ego, id, and ego and what?
Superego.
And what?
Isn't it the id, the ego, and the superego?
Yeah, there you go. Glad somebody paid attention in psychology class. It's more the understanding. It's a different understanding of reality, which is we're living in a spirit world, and everything we see in the physical plane is a manifestation of the spirit world. But underneath it, all that we see is spirit, is infinite spirit, and its different manifestations of the spirit of the mountain, the different spirit of the lake, the spirit of the rain, the spirit of the sun, the spirit of whatever, and the real dynamic is versus the ego or superegos. What kind of relationship are you in with spirit right now? Because spirit is the source of everything, and it's the essence of who you're being. Are you in respectful relationship with spirit? Are you in harmony and balance with spirit? Are you in harmony and balance with the earth, with the animal spirits, with your people in your tribe, or not? And their understanding is illness, sickness, accidents is a manifestation of imbalance. And it's an attempt of the system to feed back to you how you're out of balance, and to get the information of how you're out of balance so you can see how to get back into balance, which again comes back into, for most of us in a culture that isn't raised on gratitude, but just the opposite, greed, accumulation of wealth, and gimme, mine, is your way out of balance of not giving thanks back to the creative powers of life that you're dependent on. So it always comes back to that's the concern. Are you living according to the original instructions from the creative stories of your particular people? And all of those stories come back to the same dynamics of the importance of balance and giving back for what you're given. So like, again, Oren Lyon's statement, we need, what humanity needs more than a declaration of human rights is a declaration of human responsibilities. That's the concern in the indigenous cultures.
Yeah. I was just looking up, there was another quote that I love of Oren Lyons. I have to try to find it, but I don't want to take up too much time doing that. But as you were speaking, I just felt the need to really give thanks and express publicly my gratitude. And I know you just are so deeply, deeply indebted and grateful for the teachings of the indigenous elders that you were, called to work with, who opened their homes, their families, their tribes, their traditions, and how that, I got to experience that too, and the ripple out, and just how, precious and what a responsibility. And hopefully, I will just speak for myself. Hopefully this is continuing to bring forth those teachings in a respectful way. So,
yeah.
So,
Very grateful.
pardon me?
Very grateful.
Yeah. So one of my thoughts here when we like to do a visualization as part of Shamanic Sundays is I don't know, I felt like there's kind of two themes that seem to be running through today. And it's like that there's more to me than just me. Like I'm part of this bigger web of life, and being out of balance, coming back into balance. So what do you think about like a visualization to help us remember that we're part of this bigger web of life, this miracle of life, and within that web, finding our center of balance for the coming week?
Okay, well, let's see. It feels like response coming through with a song here. So let me just listen to see which song wants to be sung as a prayer offering, addressing what you speak to. Well, here's one. Help us remember we're more than who we think we are. I am the mountain, I am the land, I am the ocean, I am the sand, I am the fire, I am the grain, I am the sky, the light in your eye, I am. What's true of me is true of you. You are the mountain, you are the land, you are the ocean, you are the sand. You are the fire, you are the grain, you are the sky, the light in my eye, you are. We are the mountain, we are the land, we are the ocean, we are the sand, we are the fire, we are the grain, we are the sky, the light in our eye, we are. Dropping down, taking the elevator, the inner elevator, all the way down to the basement, into our solar plexus, place of light at the center of our physical body container that our spirit lives in, and sending roots down into the earth. So we're grounded in Mother Earth and pulling up the growth power from Mother Earth. So prevalent here as we come to the summer solstice, or enter the summer solstice time, the growing time of summer, and that growth power coming up into us and through us and extending up into the upper world. So there's a beam of light that goes up above, goes through us down to the earth, and we're right in the middle of it, grounding, 1 point, center drop, ground into Mother Earth, relax, make the blend, connect with that energy pouring in from above, below, flowing through us. And open heart, send out healing light and love energy back into the field that we see of creation. Prayers for healing of the sacred hoop. Prayers for all of us showing up with empowerment, polishing up our stardust to shine brighter and bring through our medicine gifts to do our part to help create the kind of world that's possible for us to create, a safe and just and healthy and beautifully diverse win-win world for all. And it starts with intention. It starts with gratitude for being alive and being given the opportunity to be a part of conscious evolution, to be agents of conscious evolution for the healing of the sacred hoop. May it be so. Oh, Bombrios.
Adios. Thank you. Love that.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for dreaming us up and bringing us together and opening the doorway for this to happen. Thank you.
Well, it started you and Nicole and I and Mom sitting around in the living room a couple months ago in your new house, and we were just talking story, and this came through. So here we are.
Good listening. Thank you.
Yep. Great to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. Reminder to send us questions for next week. Share this with any friends or family that you think might also enjoy it, get something out of it. And the recordings are all up on YouTube too, so you can rewatch them or share them at any time. So thanks, Dad.
Thank you, daughter. Love you.
Okay, love to everybody. Mwah, mwah.
Oh, bye. Con Dios.